Oh, thank goodness Jess is here. Hi.
Hello.
You know why? Because, well, there's many reasons actually. So Jess is a yoga teacher. She's also an Ayurvedic practitioner. She happens to be an awesome friend and she knows how to make masalas. So all of those things mean that this is bound to be of interest from one of those angles, right? So masalas, I love because it's a way of putting Ayurveda into your life without really thinking about it. But because we have access to your brain right now, can you give us a general rundown and start wherever you think is necessary?
Okay.
With Ayurveda and the whole idea of doshas, and I know that's a huge topic that I've just asked you to concentrate.
But we can bring it down to a bit of basics. So basically, according to Ayurveda, everything is made up of 5 elements. And in Sanskrit, that's known as Maha Panchabhutas. 5 elements being earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So everything in the universe is comprised of these 5 elements, including you and including me. So when we are born, we're born with the various constitution or makeup of these elements. So all the foods we eat also have these types of elements and qualities. And because we're born with a certain constitution, our diet should represent that which balances the constitution. So we can utilize certain spices to figure out what our imbalances are, what our needs are, to kind of bring ourselves back into balance. Right?
How do you figure out what dosha you are?
Okay, so you can look online. Maya Tiwari does some beautiful books where they have some quizzes and things like that that you can take to understand your dosha. She does a beautiful book called A Life of Balance, which is great. It gives a really great overview of Ayurveda and an understanding of each of the dosha types. So once you kind of figure out what your dosha is, then you can look at certain foods that you're eating and utilize masalas to get the best out of your nutrition.
Yeah,
really.
Brilliant. Yeah. And is that your first starting point? Like when you're doing clinic with somebody, you want to work out what their dosha is?
You always figure out what the dosha is first because we need to figure out what's required to bring it back into balance.
Yeah, right.
So quite often our imbalances are due to various environmental and most of the time dietary factors.
Sure.
But because of course we know that the diet, the gut sort of dictates a lot of our health, most of our health in fact. And so therefore once we know what someone's doshas are, we can work to get them back into that frame of balance. Yeah.
So masalas I kind of got into after you and I went to meet Maya Tiwari, and we did this really cool thing that she introduces that I want to do today, is to use your own hands to determine the amount of the ingredients that you use in a masala. And that sounds kind of kooky, but it really works because if you do a 3-finger pinch, it's roughly 1/4 teaspoon. If you do a 5-finger pinch, then that's half a teaspoon, roughly speaking. And then whatever can fit into the cupped palm of your hand is about a tablespoon. But that just shows that then if you start to cook in that way, that you determine your own measurements based on your own physicality, it's a really incredible process because it's really, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right, so how do we go about with the masalas? How do we go about putting them together, knowing what each of these is going to offer to us?
So basically the best, I think, way to do this is to go by what the season is.
Yep.
Because each of the season has a different characteristic too in terms of where the dominance of elements lie. So at the moment we're in spring. So you have a more dominance of water and earth elements. So we need spices that are a bit lighter, a little bit drying, a little bit more heating in some respects to a degree, but we also need to have a sense of balance. So with your spices, we can kind of go through what each of them are and talk about that. So we've got some lovely cumin there, and cumin is one of the best digestive stimulating herbs. It's excellent for enkindling the digestive fire, what we call agni. And then you've got your cardamom. That's actually very, very drawing in terms of, especially if you have excess mucus, like an expectorant type of quality to it. It also helps with any nauseousness and any heaviness. And then we've got some lovely peppercorns there. So peppercorns as well act as a beautiful way of a little bit of drying. They're a little bit heating. They're also excellent for absorption of nutrients and enkindling digestive fire. And then you have some yellow mustard seeds, not as heating, I think, as the darker mustard seeds, but they are warming in general, and again another great way to sort of alleviate any excess heaviness of water and earth. And then you have something like coriander. Now, coriander is interesting. It's very, very tridoshic, and it can be
what
either...
What does that mean,
Tridoshic means it's very balancing for all the elements,
right,
sort of
no
thing.
matter what you
or
are.
for the doshas, yeah? It's very, very good. But coriander is really, really wonderful because it's also an appetite stimulant as well. And so it's very, very good as well for alleviating any spasms and things like that too. So it's just a really nice sort of combination flavor-wise, but also with aromatics. And that's really important when you're doing your masalas, because it's what stimulates sort of your hunger. It stimulates the agni, the digestion, and also it gives that sort of connection to it, really. It goes into the senses. So not only with your hands, but within the smell as well.
All right, shall we dry roast some of these? So the idea is that you don't end up dry roasting everything. So we'll have the recipe, as always, the recipe will be on the website, allthethings.com.au. But we'll also have the details so that you can access them. But remember to try what we're going to show you now by using your own hands to work out the measurements. Okay, so Maya says a teaspoon of cumin seeds. So that would be 2 5-finger pinches. You know, she's not bad because that kind of does look like a teaspoon. Phew. Okay, and then 2 tablespoons of coriander seeds. So remember my cupped hand. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be 1. 2 of those, and then mustard seeds, a tablespoon. So the same thing. Black peppercorns, so we're doing a teaspoon of those. Okay, and then cardamom. A teaspoon of that. Well, of the pods. Okay, and then we're going to give that a little dry roast. Well, this is going to be
should we smell it now and then smell it after you roast it? Because when you roast them, it obviously releases those flavors. And
I like that idea. All right, come on.
Yeah.
That smells amazing. It's hot. How good is that?
Wow, it smells brilliant. Yeah.
All right. Let's do the smash. Now, with the cardamom, so that everyone understands, this part releases the seeds from the husk, and then we'll just pull those husks out at the end.
So in springtime, we're more prone to things like allergies and hay fever, any sort of excess mucus, Springtime is also a time when, especially early spring, when influenzas and things can be in our environment. So these types of spices are really good for helping to boost the immune system as well as nourish the agni and the gut health,
And so what do you put your masalas in, as far as recipes?
Oh, well, gosh, you can do anything. You can roast. Beautiful thing is to roast vegetables.
Yeah.
So I love that because it allows the vegetable to be itself, but then you kind of get this extra element of all these lovely spices and flavors and in grains as well. Yeah.
So chuck it through like khichdi or...
Khichdi's brilliant.
Good thing we've got a recipe for that. Oh yeah, that is such a good smell.
That's beautiful.
So spring is done.
Yep.
Let's go to summer.
Great.
Summer actually has some of the same ingredients as spring.
Only a couple, just the cardamom and the coriander.
Okay.
So coriander, I was saying before, has some unique properties. In fact, it's tridoshic, but with the heating. So when we get into summer, people that are more fire element based, so people that are more pitta dosha, we're more prone to things like inflammation and excess heat in the digestion, blood vitiation, and also skin diseases as well. So we need to take care that we don't overheat the digestive system. So we don't want pungent sort of spices. We want sort of more sweet or astringent or bitter type of spices, but anything that's a little bit more cooling. So when you look at coriander, it has wonderful properties to take any excess heat out. So it helps to prevent acidity and it helps to reduce inflammation, and it can take burning sensations like fevers or hot flushes or heat sort of related issues like your skin issues and things like that. The cardamom is great. It's slightly heating, but but not too much, and it just adds that lovely aromatics. And the saffron is beautifully cooling, and it's a wonderful blood cleanser and blood tonic as well.
Really?
Yeah, so saffron's great for the blood, and it's also really, really good for the complexion, which is why it has an affinity with the skin. And then you've got your fennel, which is lovely and cooling, and it helps to alleviate digestive upsets. It's very, very good to alleviate any spasms, any muscle spasms. And then you have some lovely poppy seeds, which just add a bit of texture, and they're slightly cooling too. Yeah. And what you do in the season you're in actually prepares your immunity for the following season.
Okay, so 2 tablespoons of coriander seeds, so that's going to be my palm again. A tablespoon of poppy seeds. So remembering that you can get your version of a tablespoon by cupping your palm and leveling the amount of ingredient in there. That's your equivalent of a tablespoon. And a teaspoon of sesame seeds, so that's
cardamom.
Oh, yes, that's what we want.
Sesame's a different season, it's all good.
Right, so that would be 5-finger pinch, which is half a teaspoon. Saffron doesn't go in, fennel doesn't go in.
We'll add that later.
So they don't get roasted off.
They don't get roasted off, so we'll put that in there later after you've roasted the others.
Now, poppy seeds burn quickly, so don't go past the point. As soon as that's audible, get it off. Okay. Good smell.
Yes.
Okay, so now we put in the fennel and
we put the fennel and the saffron.
Now, 10 strands of saffron. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That'll be about 10. All right, let's give this a bit of a go.
Oh yeah, can you smell that while you're doing it?
So with adding salt to this, you can add salt, obviously, but just not at this point.
Right, not at that point. And you need to be a little bit careful with salt, particularly when we're talking about summer and pitta dosha. Right, salt can aggravate pitta, and you can use a little bit of salt, especially rock salt. Rock salt is probably the best in terms of the prana, and how and flavor and everything else. But keeping it sort of basic, not overdoing it, and really keeping to those sort of cooling and tridoshic spices, I think, for pitta is the go, because of the hypersensitivity to acidity and inflammation.
We're not making heaps, are we? So this is probably enough for what, a week?
Yeah, and you know what? Realistically, you should only keep them about a week.
Yeah, okay.
You know, they should be made fresh, because that's where the aromatics are going to be the strongest and where they have the most prana. Because as soon as you store something, sometimes it loses a bit of that prana.
Yeah, okay.
So we want that sort of vibrancy. Yeah.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, and look at the color difference between spring and summer.
Yeah, that's a cool thing, actually. Ooh. It's a visual thing as much as a sensory thing for your sense of smell, and then we haven't even tasted these.
No.
Are you game to just stick your finger in there?
Yeah.
So am I.
Cool, let's do it. Let's go spring first.
It's actually quite hot too, isn't it?
It's heating. You can feel it on the tongue, and that's the mustard seed.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
right.
you get that sort of potency from the mustard. I can really taste the coriander as well.
Same.
And there's a hint of sweetness from the cardamom.
That is good.
Yeah, yum, right? And you can taste the cumin as well. Let's taste this mustard.
Wow.
Such a difference, right? And the coriander takes on a different sort of overall sort of mouthfeel.
It's not even the same thing in there that it is in there.
Not with the others.
Oh, very exciting.
Yeah,
okay, it's not going to end there, but it has to end here just for now. So there will be more episodes as we go into the seasons, but make sure if you want to get into masalas right now that you've got onto the spring version if you're in Australia, and then you can look at what you're going to need for summer as well, and then we'll get you sorted for the rest of the seasons in the next lot of episodes. Thanks, Jess.
Namaste.
You and your brain. Amazing.
Thank you, darling.